Good morning. I spent a good amount of time yesterday with some friends that have all had more than their fair share of suffering over their lives. And they are now in such a better place. I don't know if it's because of the suffering or just for the fact that they were able to come through it and that made them stronger and better, or that they really maybe found a new level with Jesus through their suffering or in their suffering. They really saw that Jesus is real because of their suffering. Maybe. But they are some of the kindest, most genuine people that I know. And they've all faced immense suffering. Man, just hardships you just can't imagine. And they didn't become bitter because of it. They're just loving. They are kind and they don't have to seems like they don't have to prove themselves to anyone because they've already lived through the fire and they know who they are. But still, even as far as they've come, there's still growth that needs to happen. There's still things in their lives that they're working on. And realizing that people are never really finished growing. While we're on this earth, we're always working on something. There's always something nagging at us that we need to spend time kind of doing the inner work and resolve that so that we become a more complete person, so that we become kind of the person God intended us to be in the beginning, before we got off track and chased just ridiculous things and found ourselves just in bad situations. So don't be upset that you're never done, you're never finished, you never arrive. It's a journey, it's a process. We have to make sure we enjoy the journey. We appreciate the people along the way, and we grow continually. We're never finished. There's always something that can come up. It can be a new thing, or it can be a thing that reminds us of something in the past. that stirs up feelings or reactions that maybe we're not so proud of, or that cause a struggle for us, that we don't want to react or behave in a certain way, but maybe that's our pattern, and our mind and soul doesn't really know how to act differently, although your mind and heart knows that you're supposed to behave differently, or the patterns, the way you've been reacting in the past, to just cause problems. So when that situation arises that you would normally react a different way, but now you're able to identify that your past actions are not beneficial for you. Or even if there is inner conflict because you don't know you don't know how to react, you don't know what the best option is, but at least be glad that you recognize that a new option is possible and that a new reaction is needed. That's a huge win just in itself. Enjoying the journey, enjoying each day with the things that come up, with the things that are in the day. Whether they seem good or whether they seem bad, it's all part of our growth and our life. Just enjoying life. What a great gift it is to be able to have a life to enjoy, to be able to have the mindset that good things are waiting for you in life. The beautiful, just amazing opportunities that are there in life when we decide to live. Whenever we stop hiding and numbing ourselves, but whenever we start opening ourselves up to living again. And recognizing that it's beauty and it's not pain. Being able to see hope, to live and to love and to laugh. It just feels right. You just know it's right by just your spirit, just alive and free and happy, and you can start seeing opportunities, and you're just free to live without the weight and the burden of, I don't know, all that depression and sadness and pain, and focusing on the things that hurt you. instead of only being able to see the things that hurt and just so desperate and so desperately looking for a way just for it not to hurt and just numbing out. And that's part of everybody's story, that suffering, that pain. So everybody on the planet can relate to that. But maybe not everybody gets through it and gets out of that. And just some people just continually live in a state of, it's not depression, but it's not really living life either. It's just in neutral. And just going to work, just doing the day-to-day thing. Not really happy and not really sad. Just surviving. Everybody's been through that. Everybody's faced that at a time in their lives, but it's not the life that God intended for us. God intends life. God gives us life because He has a purpose and a meaning for us. And each of our purposes interlock and work together with our neighbor, with the people around us, with the other people in our community or society, that results in a better nation. Like each of our purpose, when we live it out, it could overcome all of society's problems. So often we're not living out our purpose. We may live out the purpose other people put on us, may just do the jobs and the tasks that other people ask us to do or request of us, but it's not ours. It's not the thing that makes us alive. Like if there's ever a stirring in our spirit to do something better, to fix something in our society, something that you see that pains you, that's calling you to your purpose. Like me, it's like I see the division in our country, and it just seems so ridiculous to me. I can't stand the division in our country. Racial, political, whatever classification of division. It's horrible, and it just shouldn't be. To like see our people, just our nation, just torn apart. A lot of times I just see it as like the media stirring up trouble, just because that trouble drives viewership or some political agenda that they're trying to push. But whatever the reason, it's not good for us as a society. But it's just like continually perpetrated. Like information skewed to to write a story instead of just reporting truth. But even more so than our country as a whole being divided, our religion, our following Jesus, Christians, divided on so many just frivolous things. And then, like, our actions aren't lining up with our words. Our weekly behavior isn't lining up with the thing we say we believe on Sunday. I mean, we don't say we believe it, but our actions of going to church, of displaying that you believe in Jesus and you believe the Bible, then there's no reason we should be divided. There's no reason Christian people should be divided, especially by race. Or political party. So often that kind of goes hand in hand. You know, like white people, conservative, Republican, black people, Democrat, white people, Republican, black people, Democrat. But especially surrounding the church, like the policies and beliefs and political issues, it should be the same. Because it's not like, we're not to be politically focused necessarily. We're not supposed to be, taking sides against one another because of some politicians or personalities who are running for office. But we should be united on the word of Jesus. And when we're not, I don't know, it's like absurd to me. You just feel so hypocritical. Like, oh yeah, we all believe in Jesus, but man, we don't like each other for our views on taxes. Whatever. It just seemed like belief in Jesus should override everything else. That following Jesus and his word to love your neighbor. And as Jesus prays, like in John 17, he's calling us to be united. He's calling all his followers to be united. But we have failed drastically, dramatically. We have devastated our religion by our division. And there are just problems all over the place. If you look at it, Jesus said, be united so that the world would know that God loves them. So Christian people love each other, help each other. And when you do, people that are outside the church, outside the religion, they will know that God loves them too. They'll know that God's love is real. We get too selfish or something. We just get too self-centered, or look at church and its make up rules to make sure everybody behaves the way that we expect them to make sure everybody looks a certain way. it's like we're ignoring the most important thing and focusing on just trivial matters. It's junk. It just doesn't matter. Has no eternal purpose, has no eternal consequence or eternal benefit. Probably. It has no benefit. It's just that we're following that we're just following old ways. We're falling back into old thought patterns of how races and political parties are supposed to be divided, but it's like our internal problems are forming our exterior world. You know, people have mindsets and thought patterns that are problematic. They cause problems for them and cause problems for people around them. And we really need to spend time working on those, identifying those problems and fixing them. Changing our reactions and our behavior. Like, we do that internally to make our person better. To make our spirit, our soul, our insides happier and free of those burdens. You know, guilt and shame or mistakes and results. Consequence. We do that personally. We need to do that as a church too. We need to look at our behaviors and our reactions and our patterns. Look at our actions and see if they're right, or see if they're twisted or cause problems. Be willing to acknowledge that our own actions are causing our own problems. It seems that churches refuse to do that. Churches continually shift the blame to society trying to end the church, or society, corrupt politicians trying to damage the Church of Jesus, atheists trying to shut down Christian beliefs. Maybe there's some of that, but I think most of our problems are self-imposed. You look at the church and church leaders and how everyone behaves and how we treat each other, how we treat outside people. We're causing, churches are causing their own demise. Almost never fails. Like a denomination or something will start growing, and as they grow, they forget that their job is to love on people, and it changes that behavior in the works of the church, and it turns more into a business. They're focused on the day-to-day activities and rules and regulations and policies. But they forget about people. They forget about love. It's instead of focusing on the mission, they focus on not losing what they've gained and how to keep everything the same. But Jesus, he just always changed things up. He continually questioned and opposed religion. He always did things that bothered the religious leaders. I think he did it intentionally, like, all right, Jesus is God. He knows what he's doing. And he knows what his actions will result in and how people will behave and respond. And like, he always did things that just set off the preachers of the day, the leaders of the churches. He always did things that they considered evil and unacceptable because Jesus ignored their rules. It's like, look, your rules are wrong. Your rules are missing the point. He is saying like God's institutions, the institutions that represent and promote God's will, God's desires, should be focused on loving people. Not focused on making people conform. Because God made us all different with our own, just different personalities and skills and abilities and temperaments and a huge rainbow of people. Every spectrum of person is created by God. And Jesus calls to love. And those people do different things, and they have different cultures, but all that is superseded by love, acceptance, and the need for encouragement and compassion. We all have the same core needs and desires. Look at every person on the planet. We have the same inner makeup. Because God gave it to us. And we come from the same designer. It's one thing that I don't think evolution can explain. Like, why is there one just like physical configuration of human, do we all have the same physical characteristics? Why do we all have the same spiritual characteristics? Like, there's a variety of cultures of people and a variety of variations with nationalities and colors and some facial characteristics, but there are no four-legged people. Like, as far as like running and hunter-gatherer and stuff, it seems like it would be really beneficial if there were like what are those things called? The mythical horse legs and human torso. As far as most sports and hunting down prey and anything that was necessary 500 years ago, a couple thousand years ago, hunter-gatherer, warrior, battle, whatever it is, like it seems like evolution could improve in our design as far as survival of the fittest goes. We're resilient, but we're pretty frail. But this is the design that God gave us. And we all share the same things together. Overall, we share the same physical makeup. Like, identically, we share the same inner makeup. Our inner being is exactly the same. We all are subject to facing suffering and pain and misery. And like, every person out there is looking for hope and purpose and meaning. And that drives us, or that causes us to give up and to quit the game of life, which we're seeing a huge rise in, especially with our young people. Since we have the same makeup, why is it that we have just no compassion for each other? It's like we only care about our own pain and fixing our own troubles. But then when somebody else has the exact same thing, we just ignore them. Sorry, I wanted somebody to come for me, and well, not enough people responded, and I'm not going to respond to anybody else. It's just cruel and heartless. And that's exactly what Jesus tells us not to do. It's like, somebody hurts you, or somebody ignores you, or somebody causes damage or pain to you, forgive them. Like the Old Testament taught, an eye for an eye. If somebody hurts you, hurt them back. If somebody doesn't help you, well, ignore them in their time of need. But Jesus teaches, no, like turn the other cheek, forgive people. If somebody wrongs you, love them. If somebody is your enemy, yeah, give them a cup of water, help them out whenever they're thirsty. As a human race, we're not there yet. We should be. Especially Christian people should have that as a main focus. But we're too focused on hate right now, on retaliation for pains or for even unintentional things or things that didn't even happen in this generation. But it's like people are demanding justice for things that don't even happen these days. You know, like with this race war, I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my best buddies. He's just the most awesome guy. And we don't exactly look the same. Yeah, he's a black dude with dreads and just like super muscular. And giving him a hard time because he like always has this like scowl on his face. He's just he just looks like you don't want to mess with him, you know? But he's an awesome individual. And we were talking about racial division and it's how stupid it is. I mean, really, how on a local level, politically, it's like everybody's the same. Like majority of people have the same beliefs, but they're so divided politically, and then the politicians are trying to just race bait and just create like a race war, just division, so that they can maintain power. It's like when I say race war, I don't mean races fighting against each other, but I mean people that are trying to maintain power and authority. They're dividing so that they can conquer. They're dividing us based on our skin difference. Because like, especially Christian people, we should not be concerned with that. Like, realize we don't fight wars of this flesh. You know, we're not fighting against, you know, skin and bone. We're fighting against spiritual things. And in the same sense, like we're united by spiritual things. It just breaks my heart to see us just torn apart by people just playing on our emotions. Perhaps if I could see some good in it or some intended good result from it, like a movement, like Martin Luther King, like I have a dream, let's be united. You know what his dream was? It was white people and black people walking down the street together, being united. Like that was his dream. And it was a purpose, and it was loving, and it was passion centered, and just focused on a great outcome, a noble cause. But now we've regressed so far, and I mean, sure, of course, I could be wrong, but it seems like politicians and leaders and I mean, maybe even religious leaders are consumed with division so that they can maintain a little power in their little fiefdom, in their little corner of the world. They just want to maintain power and control. I guess it's a person's tendencies to just want control. There's an element of security in control. But then you have to realize we're not in control of anything. Like, there is nothing we are in control of in this external world, in business or religion or sports or whatever it is. We're just not in control. The only thing we can control is ourselves, and we can't even do that. We wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and we're all grouchy and irritable, and we're not even in control of our own attitude. We want to go on a diet, but we can't control ourselves, so we sit down and eat a pint of ice cream. Can't even control ourselves, and what we do or what we say or what we think. How are we going to control anything that's outside of us? But there are people who are just master manipulators. They're so desperate to maintain power and wealth and prestige, recognition, that they toy with our emotions. They're smart, and they have researchers and consultants and a whole team of people that focus on persuading others to their side. I wish we could see a day when people start caring about each other. When people start treating each other in the same way that they want to be treated. When people realize that anger and unforgiveness, manipulation, it doesn't do good for anybody. You know, especially the person that's like holding that anger and unforgiveness, that bitterness. There's there's a better way than just competing in anger and there's so much abundance out there and love. There's like, if one person wins, it doesn't mean other people lose. If that there's room for cooperation. And that working together, it has such a bigger reward than whatever it is these people are looking for. And then like a one-time financial pop, stimulus, or some sort of recognition or praise from random individuals. I can't see any good that could result from our division, from people like just in constant conflict. And even a lot of times maybe it's even just conflict in your mind. Like you think that other side is conspiring against you, and so it makes y'all paranoid, and then you act out, you know, in like self-preservation and just like harmful ways towards something that is just completely imaginary, that the person really wasn't planning or thinking. And it's just to our own demise. But I'm calling people, Christian people, to be light. to be the example, to show, to live out what Jesus teaches us to do, to forgive each other, to ignore past hurt, and to love anyway. To love each other and be united. The simple things of Christ, right? Just if somebody hurts you, turn the other cheek. It's like forgive them and understand that we're all people and we all mess up. We're all messed up individuals. We're doing the best we can. But when we're alone doing the best we can, we're nowhere near as strong as we are when we're together. So a call to unite. A call to the basic, simple principles of Jesus. Be united. Love each other. Help each other. Treat people like you want to be treated. Consider others as more important than yourself. Yeah, that's so completely different from our world. But when you treat other people important, they treat you important. When you treat people with love, they treat you with love. I mean, just reciprocation. If somebody gives you a gift, well, you feel obligated to give them a gift. If somebody smiles at you, you're naturally obligated to return a smile. And it makes you feel better. So it's not just like do these things because you're supposed to do them, but do these things because they'll help society. But also do these things because they help you. There's no joy that's comparable to when you are loving other people. It's like when you're in love, you're so excited, you just can't sleep. Because you've expressed your feelings for somebody else, and they accepted you and they reciprocated. And you're just so ecstatic, you're just floating on a cloud. Imagine you could do that with friendship. Imagine you can do that with being united with people, looking for common ground, having compassion, realizing that we're all messed up. And even when we try our best, we mess up. And forgiving people for that and loving them anyway. And then when you mess up, well, they'll forgive you too. But it has to start with each of us. We can't wait for the other side, the other person to forgive first, or we're gonna hold fast to our stubborn stance. No, Christian people, it has to come from us first. So it comes from Jesus. It shows who Jesus is. Our behavior, our actions, revealed to the people around us who Jesus is. If you're miserable all the time, well, that shows people that Jesus just makes you miserable. If you're all claiming and talking up Jesus all the time, but then you're foul mouthed and talking smack all the time and just obnoxious, well, as people around you learn that Jesus is obnoxious. It's important to always be concerned with how you are living. If we're doing the things that represent Jesus in a good way, or are we just taking our own pain and suffering and our own kind of twisted personal desires, and we're displaying that as godly behavior, as behavior that that represents Jesus. I think so often we do that, like unintentionally, just not thinking about it. Not considering how our actions reflect Jesus to the people around us. Like, we might be the only Jesus that people see, people have set their conclusion, their decision on who Jesus is by the way you act. By the way I act, in our division within the Christian realm, our division on whatever race and status and politics, it's showing people that Jesus doesn't have what this world is looking for. Satan's loving that, eating that up. People around us don't realize that Jesus is the good part of us, and then we're just messed up too. We're just messed up, and so we're messing up this Jesus thing. People don't separate the two. When we say, we gave our life to Jesus, Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and my life is dedicated to following Jesus. And then we choose to support some political, racial hate, just trash. It's like, we're showing people that politics is more important. We're showing people that race is more important than the creator of all things. We're expressing to people that, if you don't match up with what I believe politically or whatever division you choose, that they're not important and they don't matter, or that Jesus isn't the answer for them. We have to do better. Have to examine ourselves. Journal it down. Consider the inner things of the heart and the mind. reflect on our actions and our thoughts and our beliefs. Not the things we claim to believe, but the things that we actually believe. Our actions display our beliefs. We can say we love everybody and Jesus has made us whole and loving and accepted. But what do your patterns display? What do you really believe? Look at your actions, look at your fruit. Right? You know the tree by what kind of fruit it develops. Well, look at your life. What kind of fruit have you developed? What kind of actions and behaviors have you developed? How does that reflect back to Jesus? How does that show that Jesus is loving and that Jesus is ultimately what everybody's looking for? Let's examine who we are now, where we came from, where we're going. What does God have in plan for us? What mission and purpose is within us? How are we going to start living that mission and purpose? How are we going to walk in it? How are we going to live a life that pursues our purpose? It's not going to be by accident. It has to be intentional. For some reason I started thinking about Elon Musk, like all the things he has done by harnessing his desire to change the world. He dropped out of college and he saw that the internet was growing and that it was about to change the world, and so he started a internet company, like a kind of like a Google Maps type thing, directory of companies and things, and he mapped them out. It was accessible online. Sold that. And then he saw that the financial industry needed to change, that it wasn't very secure, and people needed other options. So he wrote the code and created PayPal, or the company that would become PayPal. And that changed the financial world. Like, transactions became more secure, people could access money from anywhere. You could send money anytime to anyone. Like it just simplified banking. And then he saw a need to change how space travel went. He started SpaceX, and it's like we need to change how this is happening. He had a purpose and a passion. Like we need to be able to make it to Mars, and we need to make space travel accessible to everyone, and reuse the parts that we're using to get us to space. Reuse those vehicles and those rockets and stuff instead of just letting them be a one-time use thing, and then just like they're trashed, just a huge expense. It's like, so he made rockets that you could reuse that would return to base, and it cut a ton of cost, and he completely changed that industry. Right now, it's he flies up and like restocks the space station for NASA. Like NASA doesn't even do that anymore. He saw a need he saw what people were doing, just using the rockets once and then just dumping them, and it's like, no, there's a better way for this. We need to change this. And so he worked on it, and he changed it. With cars, he saw there was a need for electric cars, and that the electric cars of the day were just horrible. They were unreliable, and they weren't attractive. And so he made just a fantastic alternative. He started Tesla. He answered the reliability issues. He answered the styling issues. Made driving an electric car enjoyable and enticing, instead of just something that only people really did as a statement. But he changed that world of electric vehicles, and ultimately maybe our world of vehicles in general. That potentially pretty soon there might not be a need for traditional vehicles. Then he saw a problem with traffic and congestion and travel. And so he started a company that would completely change that world. Boring underneath the ground to make tunnels for super fast travel that's extremely safe and affordable. Solve the traffic issue. And so he sees something that is wrong and that needs to be corrected, and he starts out on something that everybody says is impossible. Like everything he's done, like people have always said it was impossible. but he finds a way to do it. Even like in the face of almost certain disaster. Like Tesla has faced bankruptcy a few times. Like just being so short on money that they only had just like 3 days worth of operating expenses in the bank, and then God blessed them with a solution. Something came up that solved their issue. Somehow I feel like unity and loving one another, accepting one another as we are, it's related. Like people say, like it's impossible. You can't just love one another and treat other people as more important than yourself. They'll just take advantage of you and walk all over you. And so you just have to take care of yourself and look out for number one. And but that hasn't worked. Whether it's business or political or whatever, whatever power, control, leadership that people are striving for, that system doesn't work. At the same time, those people that promote or practice that system, just competition, trying to get the most I can, just thinking about me and what's good for my small group. And those people would say that serving one another, that helping each other, that loving each other, right? Unity doesn't work either. Because they've been so practiced in the world system, competition and anger and scheming for so long that they can't see another way. But another way is possible. Like we know it in our heart. That's what we all desire. Love and compassion and acceptance and encouragement. You have to realize that it's not going to be seamless. It's not going to work out perfectly. It's not going to be flawless. Like it's going to be messy. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be problems, especially in the beginning. But just like anything else, you have to work it out. You see the problems and acknowledge the issues, and you keep working towards the goal. Love and hope and compassion and encouragement, acceptance. We know that's real. We know in the bottom of our hearts that that is the right way to go, that that is the right thing to do. So join with me, help me in this mission to live out love, to focus on unity, to serve one another, to accept each other just the way we are, to encourage each other towards growth and towards happiness. To be concerned about others instead of being only concerned about ourselves. Being selfless and not selfish. It's going to be a great journey. It's going to be a great ride. This could have just the greatest world-changing result. Just doing the simple things that Jesus taught us to do. So send in your story, your testimony, your experience of overcoming hardship and trial and suffering, whatever it is, whatever kind of genre it fits in, if it's, political or racial or religious or divorce or whatever. How you suffered, how you were broken, how you were crushed. What's your redemption story? Be detailed as possible. If you want to be anonymous, you can be. We can do that in editing. And just be vulnerable. People need to see that other people have faced hardships and come out. If you're not vulnerable, if you don't give details, then it's just not going to have any impact. Because people don't know if they can relate to that story. People need to hear that someone else has gone through the same thing they have and come out and life is better, or that somebody's gone through something worse and they've made it through and they're better and they're living life again. People need your story. Imagine the possibilities of your impact on someone else. Your story, even if it saves just one person's life, even if it helps just one person get out of their suffering, even if it helps one person prevent suicide, choose life instead of quitting the game. Imagine if your story could just help one person. Would it be worth it to you to share? I hope you share. Thanks for your time. I hope you have a great day. See you later.